So thank you, Trent. Thank you for taking out some time to do the interview with me today. And before we move forward, could you please quickly introduce yourself to the audience?
My name's Trent Charlton. I started Transcend Consulting about 6 years ago. I've been in the supply chain industry now about 33 years. And for about the last 7 years or so, I've been focused primarily on the digital supply chain and working primarily with startups in this space, typically either in seed or Series A. And I've been lucky enough to work with about 75 startups over the last 6 years now.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. And what motivated you to start this company?
I'm sorry,
What motivated you to start this company?
what did I do to start it?
What motivated you to start this
Oh,
company?
motivated. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
no problem.
I saw a problem in the supply chain. I was working with three of the top five LTL carriers, less than load carriers here in the US. And um, I was getting kind of bored, to be quite honest with you. I
Okay.
saw a startup come along and look at DFM, or what we call digital freight matching solution, differently. I hadn't seen anyone else take a solution where they took an asset that was already being utilized and repurposed that to pick up a shipment while it was in transit,
Mm-hmm.
and then do it for reduced cost. And I thought, this is something different than anything I'd ever seen. If you can, if we can change the supply chain just by repurposing or reutilizing the current assets, and do that at a reduced cost while we increase efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn more about this. And I quit my job and I started with that startup in Venice Beach, California.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. And that's a big leap of faith as well, I guess, for you.
It was absolutely a leap of faith. I
Wow.
had no idea. I remember starting at the company and they were on the third floor. On the mailbox was a little sticker that said the company's name, Cargomatic, and nobody had shown up yet. In my industry, people started really early in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't think anybody had showed up to the office till around 9 o'clock.
Mm,
So by then I'd been sitting there for almost 3 hours waiting
okay.
for everyone to show. It was a definitely something different that I'd never done before.
Wow, that's nice. And where did you go to school and what was your major?
I really didn't finish school, to be quite honest with you. I finished high school, went to college, took a lot of units in college. I just found
Mm-hmm.
myself working two and three jobs at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I was very entrepreneurial. So at 12 and 13, I was at swap meets. And by 14 and 15, I was working in a chemical warehouse filling 55-gallon drums. And by 17 and 18, I was unloading in the backs of trucks. And so I had that kind of grit where I didn't mind getting my hands dirty and I liked putting in a hard day's work. And I was unloading trucks through college. And so I was able to make a lot more than most of my friends who were already in jobs. And I thought to myself, I think I completed maybe 100 units. So it was quite a bit. I mean, I could
Yeah.
always go back and finish if I needed to,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not a priority for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's interesting. Okay, so did the entrepreneur life choose you or did you choose it?
Well, my father had been in supply chain. He owned his own company for
Mm-hmm.
30 years.
Oh,
And prior
okay.
to that, he worked in a truck. He worked for companies like Frito-Lay and delivered chips. And I remember some of my earliest memories as a boy, 4 and 5, 6 years old, was working with dad and eating a sandwich in Fresno, California during the summer and wondering why that sandwich was so hot you couldn't even eat it.
Mm,
And so I guess I kind of grew up in that industry. In 1980, after deregulation here in the States, uh, I remember being 12 years old then, and dad had taught me, how this industry, how this brokerage space works. And so by the time I hit 20, I had the keys to a company car, and I was working all of California and some of Mexico and making sales calls, and sometimes would be gone a month, 2 months
mm-hmm.
or more out on the road trying to find flatbed expedited heavy haul freight. And so I never really had a choice. I felt like it found me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of valuable experience that you learned from your family. That's amazing. That's nice. So people who are just getting into business, what would you say is a basic skill set for a person to start their own setup?
Is it specific to supply chain or just business in general?
Just business in general.
Have a pretty clear idea of what it is you want to do, and be
Mm-hmm.
willing to use your own time and money. Everyone thinks you need to go out there, and I have a friend of mine that was a neighbor for many years, and she wanted to start a photography company, and so she went out and bought the most expensive camera.
Mm-hmm.
She went and got lessons, and then was never able to actually get a client. And so
Mm-hmm.
by then she had spent tens of thousands of dollars and taken all sorts of lessons. And I tried to convince her at the time, maybe it's a good idea to just kind of start small
Yeah.
and help people with LinkedIn profile photos and that sort of thing. And so I guess my advice would be to start small,
Mm-hmm.
find a market, listen to the market. They'll tell you what they want and what they need. And so a lot of our business, the most successful things we've done and why I think we've been successful is we've listened to what our customers want, and we found a way to monetize that and just continue to grow. This year we're doing some stuff a little bit differently where we're pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing a new opportunity to kind of pivot into a new uh, vertical for us. Excuse me, hold on. I have something caught in my throat.
Okay.
So I'm making a change there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's real important to listen to the market.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. That's true. And for newcomers again who are just starting out in 2021, how difficult would you say is it to start a business this year, especially given the pandemic situation?
You just have to be smarter. I mean, really, you have to have really clear definition. I think it's actually easier in some ways
Mm-hmm.
because our business kind of grew through this pandemic. We were very one of the lucky companies, but
Mm-hmm.
our value proposition was really to help position companies differently. And so if there was an opportunity to help a company um, solve a final mile solution through, say, drone delivery, then that's what we were going to do, or add autonomous trucking, or basically different ways of looking at the problem. And so I work with a number of different startups, as you know, and
Mm-hmm.
those startups, you can almost think about it in terms of being in a kitchen and taking different startups and putting together different solutions. So if somebody has a line haul solution and someone else has a final mile solution, and you have a large client, an enterprise client, sometimes you can put a solution together by using existing technologies in the marketplace. You don't have to go necessarily fix it. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of fun to sit over the tops of some of these startups and help find the right strategic partnerships for that particular client,
Mm-hmm.
and then move into implementation or project management to help solve for those problems. So just be willing to go outside of your comfort zone, really understand the problem. From a sales standpoint, I believe in a book called Spin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an acronym for situation, problem, implication, need, payoff. And it
Okay.
kind of walks you through spin questions. The situation question is going to be really basic to learn more about their business. Once you identify a problem, really massage that. And then what are the implications of not solving that? How much does this cause you? How much pain does this cause you? Or how much is this going to cost you by not solving this problem? And
Mm-hmm.
then if we were able to fix that, would that work for you? That sort of thing. That's kind of the basic idea behind Spin.
Mm-hmm.
And really massaging that idea with real clients and getting feedback where they tell you exactly what the problem is, write it down, bounce it off a number of other customers, and then put a business plan around it, put a website up, start putting some pricing together, put a contract together, tell them that you're going to work on it, solve the problem, monitor and manage KPIs. Um, and just don't be afraid. I mean, you're going to probably fail. I remember I had 7 different ideas and I launched all of them at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
6 of them failed immediately. And one of them ran off, and we started a company years
Oh,
ago with that
okay.
one idea. So sometimes they're not all gold, but
Yeah.
you have to be willing to put yourself out there.
Mm, definitely. And with this company that you've started, what were some of your major hurdles when you were in the initial stages?
No one was helping me. I mean, I went to the internet, I tried to watch YouTube videos, I didn't have a lot of answers, and people in the space weren't very helpful, to be honest.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have any other competition in the space. And so a lot of
Mhm.
the things I figured out, I ended up having to figure out on my own through
Mhm.
trial and error. I remember that I brought on a really big client. I kept lowering my rates until I found a rate that would work for me. I remember
Mhm.
early on, I think it was about $150 an hour, which was quite low given my expertise, but I needed business. And
Mhm.
there was a client who hired me and gave me 60 hours a month. And so it was incredible. I was working my tail off. I was very, very busy. And, we completed the project. And when they said, thank you very much. And we quit. I didn't have another account in the pipeline. So I went another 3 months without any business.
Okay.
So I learned pretty quickly that
Yeah.
ideally, in a perfect world, maybe I need somewhere between 4 and 8 accounts. And to do
Yeah.
that, maybe I need somewhere between 5 hours a week and 10 hours a week per
Mhm.
client. And then when I lose a client, it just doesn't have the same impact. And
Correct.
once I was able, it took me almost a year and a half to get to a point where I had steady business, where I had the right amount of clients based on workflow.
Yeah.
And then it started to make sense. And now that we've been busy, the challenge has been pivoting and bringing people in. We hired 3 people here recently, and trying to train them is occupying a lot of my time, so I can't bill. And we're going through a challenge with almost too much business right now. And
Mhm.
how do you scale? And so a lot of the analogies I use are, it's almost like changing the tires on a bus when it's in motion, is what kind of what
Okay.
it feels like.
Yeah.
I, you, Ideally, in a perfect world, you would stop, pull over, and you'd put a jack under it, but we don't have that sort of luxury. And our
Mhm.
client still is very demanding and
Mm.
requires us to continue working. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit of a challenge, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, that's amazing that you have, abundance of business. That's nice. Okay, so apart from work, what do you do when you're not working?
I work all the time right now, unfortunately.
Mm.
So I eat at my desk. I'm not proud of it. I unfortunately take meeting, I work on the weekends typically. I haven't had watched TV in I don't know how long. It's been a long time. It's just we're in that stage of growth where it's a good problem,
Mhm.
but I haven't had the balance that I would otherwise normally have. But when I do have balance, I like to go out and ride bicycles with my wife and travel, and then play golf. I love going out and playing a game of golf with 4 friends and just forget about everything and enjoy your time.
That's nice. Yeah. Okay. Could you share an important lesson that you learned from life?
Um, People talk about their network,
Mhm.
but it's not until you start a business that you realize just how important your network is. I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people use it as a buzzword,
Mhm.
but it's truly something that you want to covet and understand, and get to really know the people that you're working with as friends. I
Definitely.
mean, even your friends, going deeper and understanding what their challenges and problems are, and getting to know people at a deeper level, getting to know your clients at a deeper level,
Mhm.
is very rewarding. And treat those people with love and respect, and keep them close, because not everyone is going to really care about you. So
Yeah.
you're gonna want to lean on those people when you're not feeling the love and business is difficult in some way, whether you're too busy or not busy enough. Most people complain about being not busy enough,
Mhm.
but there are companies right now that are almost too busy, and that's almost equally as problematic.
Mm. That's true. What keeps you moving forward in life?
It's a good question. My wife and I have thought about retiring early. We could retire now if we
Mhm.
wanted, and we dream about it constantly. Like, let's just
Okay.
unplug and
Yeah.
let's go. We have the means to kind of shut it all off and
Mhm.
retire, but it's difficult because I feel like there's still a fire burning inside, where I
Mhm.
have to share that fire. And I still am motivated to get up every morning, and I love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job. It
Mhm.
really which is probably what allows me to work all these hours.
Hmm.
And so until that fire starts to go out a little bit, I think I have to do this. It's something I have to do.
Yeah. I mean, if work doesn't feel like work anymore, then it's a good thing, I suppose.
It's wonderful. I wake up, I look forward to having breakfast with my wife in the morning and getting out there and helping.
Hmm.
The supply chains are so broken. There's so many people out of work that if you can help some of these supply chains work,
Hmm.
it keeps the warehouses busy, it keeps the truckers busy, it keeps the marketplace busy, and people get their product, and no one's able to leave the home now. And so there are people on the front line in supply chain, and we're all doing our best, whether you're a driver, you're in a warehouse, you're on a forklift, you're a salesperson. The supply chain needs people out there and willing to put themselves in harm's way with this horrible virus, so other people can stay at home and be safe.
Definitely, that's true. And do you have a favorite book?
I think I mentioned it, Spin. I've always liked Spin just because it feels, it's a sales related book,
Hmm.
but it always felt like a bookmark inside of a I always go back to it. You know, a lot of times I'll spend time on page 92
Hmm.
where they have the breakdown of how spin works,
Okay.
and often it's a bookmark in a call. So if the operations team is aware of where you're at in that particular sales cycle, they understand how how important it is to kind of onboard that customer properly, or how far along in the sale you actually are, or
Hmm.
what sort of problems you've identified.
Okay, that's nice. So, what's the best and worst part of being a CEO or an owner of a company?
Well, the best part is probably when things are going well, you can kind of do whatever you want.
Mhm.
you can
Yeah,
do,
that's
you
true.
can take time off if there's something you've always wanted to do, an experience,
Hmm.
or if there's a family member you want to help, you can help them. You know, you've been blessed with uh, busyness and being able to solve a problem in the supply chain. The
Hmm.
the worst side of it is probably the hours. I don't. It's hard to complain because so many people are out of work. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be one of those people that are
Hmm.
complaining about how difficult it is, because so many other people have it much more difficult.
Hmm.
But the hours sometimes are very difficult. You know, I've worked 80 to 100-hour weeks, and even recently, and it's very difficult on my body as I get older, where that wasn't a problem prior to that. So I
Hmm.
need to find some balance here pretty quickly.
Definitely. Do you have a pledge for 2021?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a pledge or an aim or a goal for 2021?
Yeah, I bring awareness around what some of the drivers and truckers are going through out there. And so many people don't realize just how difficult their job is. They're out there eating unhealthy food. They can't get out and exercise.
Mm.
Often when they go to accounts, people won't let them use their restrooms.
Yeah.
They only get paid by the mile. So when there's really bad traffic and their truck isn't moving, they don't get paid. And I just think they're a they're a group that's not unionized really to any meaningful extent here in the US, and it's
Mhm.
difficult to see them doing all the work but not seeing the money. And so there's companies out there that are taking advantage of them. And I hope as I solve some of these solutions in the digital supply chain that we're able to bring some awareness around that. And so we've
Mhm.
been working on some different marketing campaigns and looking to give a certain portion of our money, our income, towards that particular solution. I'm looking for that now in case somebody maybe listening to this
Mhm.
has some ideas on um, groups that are aware of this problem and need and want to help those drivers. Again, we're going to look at it specifically from a health perspective
Mhm.
and an awareness perspective.
Oh, that's really nice. That's a really noble cause. That's so sweet. Okay, so we have reached the rapid fire section of this interview. So I'm going to ask you short questions. Try to keep your answers short as well. So if you come across any question that you don't want to answer, you can just say skip and I'll move on to the next one.
Sure.
Okay, so first one is, are you an iPhone or an Android person?
iPhone.
Okay. What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
Look at my phone.
Okay. Three things no one knows about you.
I used to sing in a choir.
Mhm.
I live with my mom and my dad 7 times, going back and forth,
Mhm.
and I secretly love tennis.
Okay. Uh, what's the craziest thing someone has done for you?
Skip.
Okay. What's the one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
I would like to eat healthier and move more.
Okay. What's your spirit animal?
A bear.
Okay. A rumor about you that you wish were true.
I'm smart.
Okay. Okay. What's the easiest way to piss you off?
To not follow through with what you said you were going to do.
Okay. And what's the one thing that you own that you wish you didn't?
Um, I don't have anything.
That's a nice thing. What's the thing that you're most afraid of?
Public speaking.
Okay. And what's the most interesting thing that you have in your purse or wallet?
I don't have anything interesting in my wallet. I only have 3 credit cards that, oh, you
Okay.
can't see that, but
Okay. So according to you, what future technology will transform our future?
I believe data is going to
Mhm.
matter the most, more than anything.
Mm, definitely. Okay, so now you have to rate yourself from 1 to 10 on the following, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. And first one is quick learner.
10.
Okay. Book enthusiast.
2.
Okay. Um, as a leader,
5.
as a CEO,
7.
as a friend,
10.
as a husband.
7.
Okay. So with that, we have, reached the end of this interview. And one last question before you leave us. So could you think of 3 other CEOs who might be interested in doing this interview with me? And you don't have to reply back right now. You can, get back to me in an email later. That's up to you. But yeah, is there anyone that you can think of, or you want to reply back later?
I'll reply back later. I definitely have some
Okay.
people that might be interested.
Okay, sure. Sounds great. So, with that, we have reached the end of our interview. So thank you, Trent. Thank you for, taking out some time to do this interview with me. Thank you for sharing the glimpses of your life, about your background, about some of the stories which people don't know and might know after this interview. And, I know you're busy, and, thank you for sparing this 30 minutes to do this interview with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much.